All right, another episode of Before You Build, where we talk about decisions that don't feel heavy yet, but show up later in time.
Oh, yeah.
And so today our topic is what construction managers actually need from contractors. So one thing we think about a lot is that construction managers are usually carrying pressure from every direction during projects. They're balancing operations, leadership expectations, budgets, schedules, landlords, architects, contractors,
Exactly.
all at the same time. A lot of the times, a contractor relationship, which is us, either helps relieve that pressure or adds to it. So today I wanted to sit down with Eddie and talk through what construction managers actually need from contractors and what makes a contractor genuinely valuable from their perspective. So it's going to be a contractor's perspective on the construction manager and contractor relationship.
Right.
But I think that what's also important to say is, like, if you're a general contractor, there's a lot of construction management you're doing. Like, you get the role
Yes.
and you can pretty quickly see where you can be helpful for these people.
Correct.
And so typically the reason that this is a topic we wanted is, like, most of the time with scaling restaurant and retail brands, like, we are dealing directly with the construction manager. Those are the ones who are, mostly choosing the contractor and then working alongside us.
Right. They're the ones in the weeds. Definitely.
Yes.
And that's always a loaded question, right? What they need from us is one of the things. A lot of it is details, so they have to go back and inform their whole staff of where the project status is and all the ins and outs and all the quirks. So how do we help them? So there's a couple things we do. Actually, there's several things we do. We provide photo reports every week. This provides them visual details of what the current status is of the build out. They get to see it firsthand, hey, where we're at according to the schedule. So an updated schedule is something else we do, constantly evolving. So that's one of the things that always changes. The only thing that doesn't change is the start date and the end date. Everything in between can vary a little bit. So information is a big key for construction managers, for contractors to provide to construction managers. One of the things that I like to do is also every CM, every construction manager is looking for sometimes different information. There's key elements that, are asked every time by their superiors, the people they answer to. So one of the things I like to ask is, what are those things? Let me help you provide you that information up front, so that way you already have it in front of you. It's not something you have to look through our stuff to find out. It's something I can provide for you easily, and there it is. This gives the construction manager the ability to get a little bit off their plate. Our intent is to make their life easier by providing whatever information is needed to then provide to their ownership. So sometimes, we look at other aspects as well. For example, vendors. Vendors that are supplied by the owner typically do not correspond to us. The only thing that corresponds to us is kind of providing dates of when they should show up. We like to help them and take that as part of our scope as well. We'll have communication with them. We'll let them know dates, and also confirm, all the details. Where do you need power? Where do you need this? Where do you need that? This will provide ease. It streamlines the process. They come in, they get it done, and then they're out. Now they don't have to be in the middle of it. The construction manager doesn't have to be in the middle of us and the vendor, trying to figure out, hey, okay, here's where we're at. This is what's going on. So that just relieves a little bit more of that load from the construction manager. But it also helps us as a contractor make it easier for us to be able to perform what we need to do, because we already have them on the schedule, we already have communication with them, and we know what they need. So it's not a surprise once they arrive and we're trying to accommodate. So there's a lot of things that we try to help with, and those are big ticket items that I think help relieve some of that load from the construction manager.
Yeah, I think there's so many like interesting questions I want to ask, like, because as a contractor, that like as a GC, you know the ins and outs of every piece of construction, and not just one brand, but like different brands. And obviously within even general contracting, there's levels of like expertise, right? Like our niche is scaling retail and restaurant brands, but another GC might be like hospitals and major builds, right? And so, but within our niche, like we may work with a construction manager that knows one brand really well, and that's what they know. But we can bring in the deeper expertise, typically to like the deeper components of construction as it is broader, but that as it relates to this specific project. And I think that to me is, for us, like, to be honest, we're gauging the level of expertise that the construction manager has. Is that true?
Correct. Yes.
And our heart and intention is to not, like, we don't want them to feel like they need to hold back like where they're truly at on their career journey. Like they don't need to like pretend like they know more than they do, or sometimes maybe there's construction managers that you meet that are they've had years and years and years working for a GC, so you can tell the difference between someone who's like just getting started and someone who has a lot of experience. You can also tell like if it's very brand specific or they know wider. And so how long does it take you to evaluate like a construction manager's experience?
It's pretty quick. Within the first conversation, I'm dealing with that, all the time. We've dealt with beginners, we've dealt with, seniors of, construction managers. And the telltale signs are always there. Like there's a lot of unknowns, there's a lot of information that's not provided, that kind of gives us indication that okay, maybe they don't know what they're looking for, and they're not expecting these type of questions coming at them, so they don't have the information already. That shows just they're not as experienced, or maybe they're not as experienced in what they're doing now compared to what they were doing before. So that provides that kind of is a telltale sign for us. Hey, okay, this is where we're at. And, some, as you mentioned, it's always great to be upfront about it. It's nice to know that way, hey, okay, now we know, and now we know where we can help as well. It gives us the insight to then, kind of work with them to make sure, hey, these are the things I'm going to need next. These are the other things that, I want to make sure are done. And it's kind of just providing him guidance for him to finish and make sure that we don't have a hiccup on this particular project. The other projects, I don't know if he's dealing with the same with another potential GC, and finding that it's a little more difficult. But we try to be as organized. We create an agenda for all our conversations to make sure that we address all the items in question, to help the construction manager also have something he can reference to, versus just having a conversation and then him trying to write down notes or anything else. We have it, minute by minute as far as what it is that he needs to focus on. So we've also ran into the other ones where they're precise. They know exactly what's needed, and they ask the questions direct, right? Why aren't you done here? Well, okay, this is what happened, this is what occurred. So we had to kind of maneuver. We continued on this. For example, if it was underground plumbing, why didn't we pour back let's say we missed, or even if it's just something that wasn't incorporated that needed to be, something that was missing. I mean, we always find that electrical outlets or even a plumbing fixture, can be missed on the plans, and that's something that we bring up in question depending on what the equipment is. We kind of understand, the necessity of some of these pieces of equipment that need water, that need electrical service, and they need a drain. So we kind of bring up that question, hey, is this right? There's a couple things that we've found just recently, like electrical outlet that needed for the drive-through window, for the headsets, for, just miscellaneous. So a couple of other questions that evolved from that is, okay, are you doing a loop detector? Is there something, outside? Which there always is, because there has to be some form of communication and notification to the operations team that somebody's at the drive-through menu board. So, hey, where do we run that to? How is that ran? Nothing's shown on the plans. So, those are specifics that we know are necessary, and we bring it up to the construction manager.
So a more experienced construction manager
Exactly.
might be able to answer
They would
those,
already pick that up.
or pick those up,
Yep.
and then be less reliant on you.
Correct.
So from the very beginning, you're saying like, okay, I can understand how much this person knows about construction, and I have to adapt to that.
To that, yeah.
And what would you say, like, if you're like, what makes a good construction manager? What makes someone easy to work with as a,
So honestly, it's one that's quick to respond. A construction manager that gives you the information right away as quickly as possible is the best construction manager. That gives us the ability to do what we need to do with that information and either implement it into what we're, the build out, or be able, like I said, even a list of vendors. We're able to communicate with them. We're able to coordinate and get everything set up so we don't have any hiccups. So that's an ideal construction manager, is somebody that can respond and give us the information that's needed for us to move forward.
So communication. So
quick
how much
decisions.
experience is important for being a construction manager?
I think there is quite a bit of experience that's needed, especially in that specific brand that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
The more they know, the easier.
About the brand or construction?
I want to say about the brand. The more they know about the brand.
Like what?
For example, we deal with, I want to say, their intent is for the overall project to function as easy and as streamlined for operations as possible. That's a construction manager. They want to make sure it gets built correctly and built according to their specs, because they know it provides a better product for operations. So the more they know about the brand, and the more they know about the issues, I want to say the constant maintenance that comes up on other locations, they're able to implement some fixes and changes to those drawings to help prevent that from happening in the future. So do they need construction knowledge? Not. I want to say they do need some, but they don't have to be experts. It's one of those that they could provide feedback. Hey, we're having issues in this area, and then they communicate with the experts to say, hey, what can be done here? So some of those questions come to us as a contractor, and they ask us, hey, what would you recommend for this? Here's an example. I brought up waterproofing behind the coolers. Part of that reason is coolers sweat. They cause water condensate, gets in your walls, and then eventually causes more damage and more issues in the space. So, hey, why not just do a quick application, something inexpensive? Here it is, that'll resolve that issue. And those are things that we try to bring to the table as a contractor to the construction manager to help them also in that manner, right? To help prevent, I want to say, preventive maintenance. So, like I said, if they know more about the brand, then it makes it easier for them to also make those decisions on the fly. When we have questions about the build out, they're able to answer much quicker.
And so do you, like, there's a couple questions that I wrote down that I wanted to like get more of a specific of your thoughts on, but I want to also go down a couple different trails here. But so from a contractor perspective, or like as a contractor, what do you think, and you've mentioned these things already a little bit, but maybe to drill down a little bit, like what are the specific things that you can do to make a construction manager's life easier? So you've already mentioned like communication.
Right.
And
Bringing
so,
up
but
details.
maybe even just like, go a little deeper on what, like how you can make their life, their job a little easier.
I mean, it's from the experiences that we have had as a contractor, and I want to say the callbacks that you get, because of certain situations, certain things that come up, we can advise, right? Suggest different options on different techniques of doing some of their build outs. This is where you can save, this is where you can, and that gives them information, allowing them to process it and also come up with a better solution for the next build, and potentially more economical solution too. So that's a specific detail that I think we can provide as a contractor. We could provide them help for them to, like I said, evolve and get better at maintaining their locations.
So because as a construction manager for a brand,
Right.
you're the one who's supposed to be the expert in construction. And you don't necessarily have to be an expert in construction.
You don't,
You can't,
right.
It helps. You don't have to be. You need to be an expert of the brand.
Right.
And then choose the relationships with the GCs that you can trust, or the experts that you can trust to help you get through the project. And for us, like, we're definitely, we're aware that like we want to make this construction manager look good, because we want their continued business, and we want to build a strong relationship with them. I mean, there's been brands that we've chosen not to work with because of their construction manager, whereas probably the same goes for us.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a level of like acceptance of like, okay, you live and breathe and do this every day. Like I laugh at some of our facilities team, at least in Panera, that's like, geez, Eddie's like a genius when it comes to facilities. And I laugh because it's like, in their role as a facilities manager, they don't necessarily need to know the depth that you do, right? They can lean on you. And it's because the world that you live in and have cut your teeth in is like a very specific, like, it's like you're an expert.
Right.
Whereas like as a construction manager, you necessarily don't have to master it all, but if you can master your brand, that's like the sweet spot between contractor and construction manager.
Right.
And I think that like being a contractor, for me, like probably the most frustrating thing is communication. In 2026, if somebody cannot return an email or even just be respectful enough to recognize that like there's a mutual respect here, that like we have our lane in business we're running, you have your lane in business, like we need to, like, you got to stop and not be so tunnel vision, and like kind of just be like respectful to that we're doing things too. That to me is like, I'm like, I really like working with this person. Because at the end of the day, for a construction project, if the goal is the construction project to go very smoothly, like there has to be strong communication and trust on both ends. It's not just about like the construction manager taking the lead and leading us through this and, putting pressure on certain points. Like there are definitely need for accountability and checks and balance and asking questions, but like it should really be in a vein of like, we have the same goal and we're trying to drive towards that same goal together. Like, how do we work together?
Exactly.
It's not like you and your brand and me and my construction company. It's like, no, we're in this together. Like, we literally have shared mutual goals, same destination. So I just love when we get to work with someone who is like genuinely like a good, thoughtful, reasonable person.
Yeah, no, agreed. That is a tremendous help. And like I said, them being able to respond quickly is really a big plus. It's a big motivator and a big help for streamlining the project. So,
What's like the most like useful thing? What are some of the things that are like most valuable to you that you've seen from a construction manager?
somebody that's tell you the truth, somebody that's organized, somebody that's able to give me hard facts, hard dates of delivery of equipment, of answers on the fly in regards to certain questions and details of how finishes are going to finish off, where they're going to finish. Something that's not incorporated in the drawings that they can answer to quickly. Honestly, those are the best construction managers that I've dealt with, and that way I'm not waiting on an answer. I'm not delayed because the equipment's not there yet. Those are all factors that we have to maneuver around and then come back. So it's always difficult kind of spacing that out that way, because then the subcontractor hesitates to come back because he feels like, hey, I've gotten, let's say 90% of the project done. Now it's 10%. It's not that big of a concern.
Right.
So I want to keep that moving and keep that motivation through my subcontractors to finish the project all the way through. And the more stops you have, the harder it is. So that construction manager can make it very easy or very difficult.
Yeah, I put myself in the shoes of a construction manager. I've been hired by a brand for, more or less hey, we're scaling. We have a guy or a gal that is responsible for finding the sites, and maybe as a construction manager you speak into that a little, probably not so much, but we have someone who finds the sites. These are the sites that are coming. We're going to build this many, and now here you go. Here's our sort of stock plans. Sort of the repeat model that we have. Take this and find contractors for these, or just build them.
Yeah.
Here, build these. And okay, so then where do you start as a construction manager? You're looking at the plans, you get to know them, you start to put a framework around it, and then you start building relationships with general contractors.
Right.
If I was a construction manager, I think the first thing that I would do is go to that contractor and be like, hey, I'm new to this brand. What would you, as an expert in construction, what do you see here? And how do you envision this going really well? And I think one of the things, the currents in construction that I find silly, that is a part of the culture in construction, is this idea that you need to fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
Because you should be inquisitive and humble and willing to say I don't know, because that's the same in any industry and in any you can't be a master of all things.
No.
Right? If you're a pitcher in baseball, you know how to do one thing really, really well. Unless you're, Babe Ruth or Ohtani or whatever. But the point is you don't have to stretch yourself. You could go a long way of being you're the expert. I acknowledge that. Let's go to lunch. Let's see if we have the good chemistry. I think a construction manager, you got to, vet your GC out to see if they have the experience. But once you get there, just asking a ton of questions and being hey, what do you see here? How do I succeed in this role? How do I make your job? I feel that would that alone would be an incredible representation for your brand.
Exactly.
You're owning the process. You don't have to hide behind lack of experience or however much experience. You're never going to have enough to ever feel you're, I feel construction's bottomless in what you can learn.
Yeah, it's never ending and it's constantly evolving. So
yeah. So you're you get the plans, you find your contractors, you learn from them, and then as the project develops, you really can come alongside your contractors and help them succeed. The same way So if I was like a up and coming construction manager, I'd be like, just be partners with your,
Yeah.
and make sure you choose the right partners. But once you do,
Exactly. And you'll know who those people are. It's like, through that communication, through that conversation, right? The initial conversation you have with any GC, you get the feel for who they are. And yeah, you may not see everything. And, things I want to say, sometimes people, they're other project managers or other, branches of employees that are in that construction company sometimes differ, in that aspect, but at least you know where the ownership heart is, and you know which direction they're going to carry you.
right.
But yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, how do you think we became professionals? Is by the same way, asking questions, communication with subcontractors, finding the professionals and having those conversations, and not just, oh, hey, here's a fix, understanding what the fix is or understanding what their process is. And that helps me become a better contractor because now I understand, okay, this needs to happen, and it helps me kind of schedule everything out in a way that's not going to affect every trade. So trades are able to do their work and finish in a timely fashion.
Yeah, and I'm laughing internally thinking about some of these questions because, I think maybe some of them are pretty obvious answers, but I'm still wanting to like take it deeper. But so what would you say separates contractors that construction managers want to work with again from ones they don't?
That's a loaded question. There's a lot of different characters out there, right? We all have different personalities. Some are, I want to say, some personalities just don't jive, and that makes it very difficult to work with someone because there's always that constant, butting of heads, but it could just be,
Why do people butt heads, do you think?
I think
what's happening there?
I think it's the thought process that you have, me providing some, for example, I've had this situation before. I provide information in regards to how this build out can improve, some things that I've dealt with in the past, and they take that like, well, why are you trying to tell me? I'm the construction manager for this brand. I know how to build these, and I know what works for us. So don't try to give me information. Okay, and that's understandable.
Why does that matter?
I think that's more ego than anything else.
Okay, so ego's one.
Yeah,
Okay.
ego's one.
Because that's just silly, right? It's silly to have an ego. It's counterproductive.
It is.
Egos are counterproductive.
Right.
Can we just say it?
It is counterproductive for sure.
Because why? Who cares?
That's what I said. And it's like I'm providing. In essence, it's like I'm trying to provide you information so you can take that to your, upper management and discuss that. And I mean, the information I provide you, you can dig into it and verify. And then that way, okay, yeah, this makes sense. You bring it as your idea. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just trying to give you information. That's all. And it's not an ego boost for me. It's not like, oh, I know more than you do. It doesn't matter to me. Right. To me, I just want to help you as a contractor, and you're my client. You're my construction manager for the brand. I want to help you, and that's it. And just like I need your help, you need mine. So let's work together and make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's yes.
It's silly.
I do think though that it's worth saying that ego does get in the way of quality relationships in construction.
Agreed.
And it needs to be named and it needs to be said, because humility and genuine humanness working together in collaboration is what makes productive systems in general and in construction. And so when the egos flare and there's this like tension, over who knows more and who can do, whose idea it was or is or whatever, and who has more experience. And I've done this so many times, like counterproductive. It literally doesn't help. No. And like coming to the table, coming to meetings and working together collectively on a project ends better for both parties, on time, on budget. You hear the same things, right? That's what people want, right? You want to be able to go back to your ownership as a construction manager and you say, look, like, I did it. Like, I got these guys to start here and end here, and I managed it along the way. Yeah. And again, I think it presents really well for someone if they're going back to their ownership, if you will, and saying, like, these guys that I worked with are they're just good people, and they want to make us look really well, and they care about our brand. Like, I feel like that shows a sense of like inner stability and confidence when you can, like highlight someone else publicly. And in construction, it can just get so egocentric. Yeah. And it's tough. We obviously all fight against that to some level, but like, there are definitely times where clearly the ego is what is driving this, right? And it becomes super challenging. I think that there's other also ulterior motives that, like, if they're not known and shared, can get in the way. And I think as a construction manager, it's important, like, as you get into that job, to know what those are. Like, if your company is scaling really fast and you have all these expectations on development, but like they're not realistic expectations, eventually you're going to be the one who's held accountable to that. Yeah. Like, we'll go find other people to work with. But like, as a construction manager, if you're signing up for an unrealistic development schedule that you don't have some ownership over, an ability to manipulate because of, like, in a positive way, because of your experience, and like, hey, this time, like, if you're going to hold me to this, like, in this budget every single time, I'm not sure this is wise for me to sign up with. So I would just say, knowing what the motives are behind the brand and knowing their expectations of you as a construction manager and having that dialogue, hopefully there's some openness there. And if there's not, that should be a red flag, because you're going to be the one who falls if it comes to it and you can't provide, 10 units on time and on budget every single time, has to hit these numbers, no change orders, whatever it might be. Right. Because the reality is like, you're coming in to help a company. You're going to do your very best that you possibly can. You're going to put your best effort forward, and you can actually do a really good job with that type of attitude versus signing up for something like, oh, this is going to bite me in 2 years from now. Like, I'm not going to be here in 2 years. Right. Which we can see when we work with brands. Yeah. Like, yeah. This is a very cutthroat deal. Yeah. Anyway, sidebar. Yeah. So what other thoughts do you have when it relates to construction managers? I think there's so many thoughts in my mind, but I want to hear yours.
No, like I said, it's really just the more information they can provide, the better it is. And I think construction managers have their own, difficulties on the back end that we don't see. Mm-hmm. So allow us to help and ease some of that, for you. What we can, right? Not something that's not outside of construction. Let us guide, let us help you in those areas. But like I said, I've seen an abundance of strong construction managers and, some that are fresh and don't have the strengths and experience that the other ones do. And there is a huge difference. But those that care and that really have their heart set on, on doing their job in a manner that helps everybody, really provides a streamlined process for the contractor and gives them a better product and I want to say an on-time solution, finishing off the project on time for operations for their team. So they are a big factor when it comes to construction, and I don't hold that against them, and I understand where they're at. I get to participate a little bit of both. I'm not just a contractor. I also get to deal and be the construction manager at times. So I feel both pressures from each side. So it's very, I understand, and I try to work with them because of that. So.
All right. So for the clip that I want to edit,
Yeah.
my summary of a great construction manager, and if it's not right, tell me so we can fix it.
Sure.
Okay. And this is obviously like if I had some more time on the spot, I would go deeper. But
Yeah.
what makes a great construction manager is they know their brand very well.
Yes.
They communicate very quickly.
Yep.
They do not have an ego, meaning they're willing to partner with the contractor and work the project together out of mutual respect.
Correct.
They are willing to, or they see where their expertise goes to, like the line of it, and allows the experts to do their job and can step back when they need to step back and press in when they need to press in, which is largely a check and balance, but also can be done, like I said, with mutual respect and without an ego.
Yeah.
And finally, I would say probably have the ability to organize themselves in a way that sets the project up for success, then learn from that project, repeat that process, and build quality relationships with the contractors and inside their brand so they continue to elevate themselves personally and the brand they're working for.
Exactly.
Is that good?
You hit it right on the head. Awesome.